Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Purple Breakdown. I am your host, Alex, and I'm so excited to be back here on another episode of the Purple Breakdown with you. I hope everyone is having an amazing Thursday. We are one day away from Friday, so close to being the weekend and getting that sweet Saturday and Sunday off. I'm looking forward to a little further because spring break is in a few weeks here for me as the school I work for goes on spring break, and I'm really looking forward to that so that I get a little bit of time off, just a little bit. That's all I need. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the Baltimore Ravens and the news that has been coming out about them. So let's jump into it. First and foremost, we're going to start with the new segment that I keep rolling with, which is the comments. So if you'd like to get your comments featured, remember, make sure to comment on the videos and you can get it featured on the main broadcast here. So, got a new one, Lost Gold Radio. And this is coming from the Jalen Hawkins signing off the Patriots for safety. You say, long as he stays healthy and lets Hamilton hunt, we're good. Complete agreement. I don't think he's getting brought in as being this supposed to be amazing defensive back who's going to be making lots of interceptions and taking time away from Hamilton and Starks. He's meant to be a depth piece. That they're going to operate in 3 safety sets and that they're going to let him just sort of be that third string starter that is out there to just make plays as he is needed. That they're going to use Hamilton as a Swiss Army knife. Hamilton's going to go and hunt everywhere. But Jalen Hawkins is just going to come as this guy that's meant to be a consistent piece in the backfield that the Ravens can rely on when they do 3 safety sets, or if somebody gets injured, that he can step up into a bigger role. And from the sounds of it, he's very good when it comes to just being in the right place at the right time most of the time. And as long as you have the good pieces around him, he helps so much. And looking at it, it's like you have Malachi Starks there and you have Kyle Hamilton. That is the perfect way to operate right there with him because he has the pieces around him there. So I think it's a great pickup for the Ravens and that they'll be going very well forward with it. And I mean, the contract wasn't bad at all. It's 2 years, $10 million, so $5 million a year. That's not bad. That's a great contract right there that the Ravens were able to get out of it. So thank you so much for commenting, and we'll move on to our next one. We got NTE back at it again. That's good that we found that out now instead of later. If we found it after during the season, oh, how bad that would be. Good thing we got our picks back, and this is referring to the Max Crosby trade. We're going to go into this one a little bit later. So thank you a lot for commenting and for talking about Max Crosby. And I agree, like, it's good that we got our picks back, but it's a really interesting situation, and we're actually going to end our podcast on that, and this will be readdressed at the end of the podcast because it is a really interesting situation of what's going on there and all the news that's coming out about it. So we will come back to your comment, NTE, and then looking at the last one, right back to it, NTE. For tight end, I really like Eli Stowers from Vandy. He has an excellent vertical jump and is pretty fast, 21 miles per hour guy. But I don't know if he will be chosen before the Ravens' second-round pick or if the Ravens are willing to use the second-round pick on him. So, remember, the Ravens brought in Durham Smith off the Bears as a blocking tight end. So what is left now is the Ravens are looking for a tight end that can stretch the field vertically and allow them to attack the field vertically like they did with Isaiah Likely. Stowers could definitely be a piece that they do that. I'm in the same boat as you. I like him. He's a really good player. He had a really great time of speed and that what, but like, are the Ravens willing to go in the second round with him? And I don't know if they are at that moment. The other one I know, the Oregon player is still in the first round at tight end that had a crazy combine as well. And he could be around when the Ravens are picking. But it's assessing what's the Ravens need, and we're going to do another mock draft here soon, especially since free agency is getting full up, and really you can now fully see what the Ravens need as they address it in free agency and looking on what's going there. I still think they go trenches first and foremost and focus on getting them, and so they could do like Peter Woods or Iona in the first round and then immediately move next to somewhere else with that, either Emmanuel Prenon or the Texas player Chase, that you could pivot around like that, go Peter Woods, and then one of those two, or if Stowers is there in the second round, go there and grab him. So I'm looking at the two there, and we'll figure that out a lot better. But I really got to go in and look more at the tight ends of who's there later, because we all know who's there in the first, second, but we need to look at who's later, because the Ravens may take a tight end later, focusing on filling other positions first. But they're definitely taking a tight end in the draft. That's without a doubt. So thank you all for who commented, and if you would like to get your comment featured, please comment. It doesn't just make my day, it lets you get featured on the podcast and the shout outs. So shout outs to all of you who commented. Thank you, NTE and Lost Gold Radio. And it helps with the analytics of the channel, as well as just talking Ravens, because that's why I do this podcast, is I just want to talk Ravens with all you guys, and it lets me talk more Ravens with you, and it lets you talk Ravens, and it's a win-win-win-win all around for everyone, and it makes my day. All right, so here we go into the main stuff to talk about today. The Ravens have brought some people in today to actually sign their contracts. These people I'm about to mention and say all came in today to sign their contracts for the Ravens. The Ravens had 5 in today to sign contracts. Chidobe Awuzie is on a 1-year, $5 million contract. Durham Smith is on a 1-year, $2.5 million contract. Jalen Hawkins is on a 2-year, $10 million contract. John Simpson, the guard out of the Jets, is on a 3-year, $10 million contract. And Trey Hendrickson is on a 4-year, $112 million contract, up to $120 million. So those are the 5 players that were brought in today, and the contracts they can receive. I'm excited to see them coming in. They all had a great time today signing their contracts, and I can't wait to see who else gets brought in, because the Ravens are going to continue to bring in more people to help fill these roles. But those are who were brought in today that had already been talked to in the tampering period, as well as immediately signed up after free agency just started like that. So those are the ones that were brought in. And reportedly today, the Ravens made another look towards guard and center, and they have agreed to a 1-year deal with Javon Gwynn off the Falcons. He is 26 years old. He played 11 snaps last year, and now he played 11 snaps, and in those 11 snaps, he did pretty good. He got an 81.2 overall grade for those 11 snaps, but it's not a great sample size to pick from. But he's supposed to have a lot of upside, and the Ravens line coaches are heavily involved in who's getting brought in and what they're looking for, what they want, and I trust them to make sure that they're able to gel together a good line that can help protect Lamar and keep the ball moving. And so they're bringing him in from the Falcons to help build this O-line and compete with who is already there. Now, it's interesting that the Ravens, he's a guard at Atlanta, but the Ravens also list him as a center. And so I'm wondering here if they're not just bringing him in, because the assumption is John Simpson will get the start for Fa'alele and where Fa'alele is. But on the other side, you had Andrew Voorhees. And so this could be a competition between Javon Gwynn, Emory Jones Jr., and the others that still remain there for the guards of who gets that other starting spot. I almost wonder if they're also bringing him in, not only to compete for one of those guard spots, but also to compete for center and just have extra depth there and somebody else that can play center. And it's still very well to mention that, look, the Ravens are definitely going to draft guard and possibly center in this draft immediately and try and add another massive impact player there. So these are all just picks coming in to add depth and have competition and see who could be the best starter for the Ravens. And I'll be interested to see who, because this is all going to come out of training camp with the competition for who will be the next starter for the Ravens. And we'll see which way they go with it. But this is just another depth pickup piece, and it's interesting to see that they listed him as a center as well, just in case that he is fighting for that center spot, and the Ravens are specifically intending him to be at center. But by no means are they. He can play guard, and he could be playing guard as well. So that is the updates when it comes to free agency and who the Ravens have signed as of right now, as well as who they have brought in and are currently looking at. I still think they need to look further in center, pick up a actual like full-blown starting center, and looking possibly at picking up another edge because Trey Hendrickson, when you look at him, and I know they said that yesterday that they may not go, but they have enough money in the tank right now, and I was thinking about it more. That I mentioned that Hendrickson really is not the best run stopper, and neither is Mike Green. The two of them are just not. And you have Tavius Robinson and Adisa Isaac there. And if you're wanting to be coming in constant waves and doing different things with your edges, then you need more edges there. And so I definitely believe they draft one, but that only gets you up to 5. So 6 seems like the place the Ravens want to get to. And bringing in one that can be a run stopper should be a priority for the Ravens that the Ravens might bring in here during free agency out of the edge rushers that remain, and bringing in one more that isn't so much focused on getting after the quarterback, but is more of a solid run stopper to complement in there with Hendrickson, especially since Hendrickson is going to help be that pass rushing solving issue player where he can get back in there, put constant pressure on the quarterback, hopefully takes a step forward and gets another 17 and a half, 18 sack season and just goes off. But you need somebody there that can stop the run. And so we may see them going after another edge in free agency here and bringing in another. But that's where it stands right now. And the final bit of news when it comes to free agency is actually a player who's leaving Baltimore. Keaton Mitchell is signing with the Chargers, and he's leaving. And I think this was a blow that the Ravens he's the 10th one to leave, and I don't like this one. I think it was a mistake letting Keaton Mitchell go, and I'll be very open and honest about that. I think he's done massive impacts for the Ravens. Was a great 1-2 combo punch with Derrick Henry, and not saying that Justice Hill cannot be a good player, but Justice Hill has a problem being very injury prone, so the Ravens have Justice Hill for another year. They're going, I believe, with Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and then they're going to draft another running back, and I really hope they pick up another running back as well, because they need help there, and especially if Hill gets walloped again and immediately gets injured, then they could be in a problem. And I think it would have been better to have kept Keaton Mitchell and have your running back core be Derrick Henry and then Keaton Mitchell, and then drafting one and letting Justice Hill sort of just be the receiving back. But we'll see which way this goes going forward and who they target in free agency and the draft for running back, because it's going to happen. They have to. So that's that news updates. Now, let's go to NTE's other comment, Max Crosby news, because this is going everywhere right now. And this is such a contentious topic and hot topic when it comes to the NFL right now. What the Ravens just did by reneging on Max Crosby's trade and saying, no, we're not doing this. As of right now, what we know, the Ravens said that he did not pass their physical. And specifically, from reports that have come out, the Ravens possibly brought in outside doctors, independent doctors that were not associated with the organization, to look at his leg and see how his meniscus is doing and what they thought about it. And the consensus that I have been hearing is that the Ravens were not worried about his short-term 1-year impact, but his long-term impact and how his knee will hold up over time, because he's contracted out through 2029, the 2029 season. So you have multiple more years on him on that contract. And so they're worried if we get all the way down to that second year into the contract and his knee is giving out more, what happens to him? And what happens to that money that we're paying out for him, especially since the Ravens would be giving up 2 first-round picks, which could be, multiple years of first-round draft pick. When I say that, I mean you can control their contracts for 5 years. So you total those 2 contracts together for 5 years. If you take on the 5th-year option, that's 10 years worth of 2 players that you're giving up for 1 player. And those 2 players' first-round picks could be massive picks that perform really well for the Ravens. You want health later into the contracts that Max Crosby may not have been able to provide. And I'm not saying this is the full truth, but I'm saying that's how the Ravens are looking at this. And everyone who's saying, well, they just got cold feet and they shouldn't have done this, it's not Eric DeCosta's job to bow to the whims of what the people think he should have done. His best job is he's getting paid, and he just said to the press and answer questions that he wanted to do his best for Bisciotti and as well as the Raven fan base and how the team should be run. And looking at it, it's like he answers to no one but Bisciotti, and at the end of the day, he is responsible to Bisciotti. And he is doing what is best for the team. And business is business in the NFL. At some point, you got to look at it and be like, hey, this is a business move, and whether or not people are upset the way it happened, it's a business move, and that's what the NFL is a business. And letting this trade fall through has put the Ravens, in my opinion, in a better spot because they have their 2 first-round picks, and first-round picks are gold to the Ravens. But they also have Trey Hendrickson. And Trey Hendrickson is by no means a Max Crosby. I mean, there's no argument of that. He is not a Max Crosby. But Trey Hendrickson is a really good player that will help solve the Ravens' pass rush issue and is a great player that the Ravens are putting in. And looking at it, it's like, I really wonder what they saw with Max Crosby's knee. And I'm inclined to believe that it is a problem with long-term health. And I've heard reports coming out that it's possible degenerative knee condition, that the cartilage in there and the meniscus are damaged and are going to continue to degenerate, which means it'll be much rougher on his knee and could damage more other muscles and surrounding parts around his knee, which could be bad. I mean, that's bad for especially an edge, and so much goes on with your knees and the impacts around that and the constant movement there on the knees and all the stress that's put on it, that could be season ending. And I mean, that's part of the life in the NFL, but the Ravens got to look what is best going forward, not short term, because Diana Rossini came out and was like, well, the Ravens aren't looking at this of what should be done in 3 years down the line, but what they can do next year. Honestly, I think that's bullcrap. They're always looking at what's going to happen 3 years down the line. They always do. Because to be a winning team, you don't want to just sell your soul for 1 year. You want to sell your soul for multiple years. You want to be a winning organization for multiple years. And how you do that is not by bringing in somebody that could possibly be injured in 2 years down the line and be done. And not saying that's going to happen to Max Crosby, but that's the thought process going into it. And now, if it's untrue about what is being said from the Ravens side about his knee, then the Ravens need to stop spreading lies and just need to own up to, like, hey, this just wasn't the move for us. And I think people would be upset about that, but would be respected enough in saying, okay, we understand. That's business. But I think there has to be some truth to this, especially since the fact that the Raiders had so much interest in Max Crosby and trading for him. And I mean, the Bears were there, the Cowboys were there, the Patriots were there, the Ravens, we were there. And so many other teams were interested in looking at him and Seahawks and bringing him in. And as soon as this news comes out, all the other teams are like, yeah, no. I understand some have brought in some edge help elsewhere. And the Raiders are upset that, hey, we just brought in all these other players and paid them so much money because we didn't think Max Crosby would be here. Well, the Ravens did the same thing. The Ravens operated on the sort of understanding of, hey, we're going to have Max Crosby in here, and we're going to let Draymond Jones walk and, 9 other players walk in free agency because we're going to be paying Max Crosby. That's why they let Tyler Linderbaum walk. Oh, I think it was beyond that. I don't think the Ravens were willing to offer him up to $27 million a year. I don't think they were willing to pay that. But they operated under the understanding that Max would be coming. I just think that possibly talking to the Raiders doctors as well as Crosby's own doctor that and getting the information from them, it's hard to look at and identify what has happened to a meniscus and the damage that is there and what could be done in the future, in looking at that and going, identifying it fully. I think it's hard to do that, and I think others not wanting to trade for Crosby points to a little bit of others are seeing possibly what the Ravens saw, and that maybe the Raiders doctors were being, optimistic. And that's my opinion right there, that they were possibly being optimistic. I'm not saying that by any means. But, I mean, so many of these rumors that are coming out about the Ravens being bad now, it's like, well, bad and bad faith, and so much. It's all coming from the Raiders because the Raiders are left with this being like, well, we thought we were getting 2 first-round picks, and it's just like, I think there has to be some truth to this at this point, and I'm thinking that it's my opinion that the Ravens did see something and did not like something, and especially if it is true that they brought in 5 independent doctors, then there has to be some truth here to this. But we'll see how it goes going forward. I mean, if he stays another 4 years in the league and just rocks out, then that'll be reflective on the Ravens, and the Ravens will have missed out, and the Ravens fan base will be very angry that they didn't go through with the trade. And now if he gets out there next year, gets injured again, comes back for another year, gets injured again, and then is sort of on the just tail end of his career where he just is like, I'm done, then that will also be documented, and then there will be truth to the Ravens side. But we'll have to see going forward. I think as of right now, this is the right move for the Ravens and what they did. And I think people can be angry about it, and that is rightful that people can be angry about it and how it went down. But they need to understand this is just business was business, and this was the right move for the Ravens. The Ravens aren't meant to be making every 31 other team happy with the moves that they make and how they make them. They are meant to do what is best for the Ravens, and I believe that's what they did. And it's as simple as that. So, that is the update that I have had for today and what the big news is for today. So, I'd like to thank you all so much for joining in and listening to the podcast. If you like what you have heard and really like the channel, please consider subscribing. Please comment. Again, get the chance of getting the comments shout out on the main platform videos, as well as I always respond to all of them too immediately. I love talking with all of you. And consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing the video. If you're on Spotify, please do the same. Follow, review, comment. All that makes my day, makes me very happy to see you guys commenting. I'll be keeping up to date and with all the news coming out about free agency and all this other news. And I'd like to thank you all so much for stopping in and stopping by. And hey, leave any comment you would like. If it's good, makes my day. If it's bad, I let it roll off my shoulders. And at the end of the day, that just helps my analytics. So good or bad. Have a great day, everyone. And I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Have a great day.